Good afternoon and good evening to you all. Welcome to a brand new week today. It's Monday, the 11th of January. And guys, as I disclosed on Friday, we're going to be dealing with the racial aspect of the events of last week, Wednesday, in the United States, with the attempted coup that we all saw. Guys, today's show is explosive, and this is what I would advise. Anyone who sees this, if you've got any friends who still doubt that there is racism, double standards, whatever you want to call it, on policing of the minorities, policing of black people especially, please send them this video at the end of it when you watched it. Okay, guys, without further ado, I can't wait to get to start this show. So without further ado, let's get to it, guys. Look, we'll saw what happens. I've got videos today really that will blow your mind. Now, in the history of black protesting, in the history of all the killings that we've seen of black people in all across the Western world, France, the UK, the US, especially these countries, you don't get a lot of that in Germany. You don't get a lot of that in Spain. We're talking really France, the UK, and the US. I have never seen the police. And if you've got anyone who watches this, if you've got friends who are police officers, please also send this video to them. I have never in my life seen the police join us in protest. I've only been protesting in the last 12 months, fair enough. But I've never seen the police or members of serving black officers join protests. I have never seen serving black firemen join protests. I'm about to show you guys what the coalition that attempted to overthrow the government of the United States the other day, or attempted to overthrow the government, because the new government's coming in a few days. That government, which Trump, the old government, was trying to overthrow a new government. And after this show, you're going to see the coalition that came together to attempt this coup on the United States. And when you've seen this, it will explain a lot. It'll explain why these guys had the gates open to them. It'll explain why they were ushered home back to catch their flights back. Only one of the arrested people came from DC, from Washington DC. Because DC is a very democratic and progressive leaning territory. It's not a state. And so all these nutcases came from other states into the capital. My first video, guys, will show you basically my series of videos will break it all down. I mean, I'm furious, but I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. Take a look at my first video, guys.
That was the target that was being discussed in the thread. Everyone in D.C. should have known about it. All the law enforcement, anyway.
Right. I'm just wondering why are there, for Black Lives Matter protests this summer, heavily armed riot geared police already are surrounding around the Capitol, and this time there weren't?
Well, I mean, it's inexcusable. I think it's pretty obvious. Obviously, they underestimated this particular crowd versus the other.
But how is that not a double standard? I mean,
it is a double standard. Yeah. It is a double standard. There's no question about that. I'm certainly not arguing that. They should have been equally prepared as they were during the summer for the demonstrations that took place.
Welcome back, guys. See, that's what many people who excuse racism will say, that maybe they weren't prepared. Okay? Maybe they weren't prepared. But yeah, they always are prepared for black people. They always have the helicopters out. They always have force. Even when you have 30 protesters, you have 50 police officers. You have horses. You have arrests made. You have busload of people carted off to prison. So yeah, people who watch this and are still in doubt, if your conclusion is, well, maybe they weren't prepared, when all the chatter on social media was saying what they're going to do, you are racist. Take a look at my next video.
They do, as you noticed, Victor, they appear to show a double standard here in the way D.C. police treat protesters, though, as well. Look at the police response to Black Lives Matter. Protesters back in June here. This was during the height of protests following the killing of George Floyd. Military helicopters, the National Guard, tear gas, all of that engaged.
CNN analysis found that D.C. police arrested 5 times the number of people during that protest than during Wednesday's riots. Now, the Wednesday's riots injured more D.C. police officers and left 5 people dead. A D.C. police spokesman says that the numbers are different because the Capitol is outside their jurisdiction, where they were in a supporting role. The curfew was not announced ahead of time, giving them less time to stage resources for mass arrest.
Now, that was the number of arrests at an event where already, before they left the premises that day, 4 was already dead. 4 people had already died. 1 shot by a police officer. So that's an investigation in itself. The officer, the investigation, when an officer kills somebody because of an event that was caused by a group of people, those people who caused the event for the officer to kill that person are held responsible. And yet, you see the number of arrests. Let me say something else. You see when the officer died at the hands of people who, when we say Black Lives Matter, these idiots, these racist pigs, this is after a police has killed a black person, we say Black Lives Matter. These racist pigs shout out Blue Lives Matter. Many of them were wearing t-shirts saying Blue Lives Matter. But yet they're happy to kill officers. And I'll tell you something else that was disgusting. That officer died the following day. He went back to his station, collapsed, went to hospital, died the following day. That same very day, Nancy Pelosi, the leader of the House in the Congress, lowered the flags at half-mast. Mr. Trump in the White House refused to lower the flags to half-mast because his people killed the officer. So he refused. This is a guy who has spent the last 4 years talking up like he defends the police. But because his racist pigs killed the officer, he refused to fly the flag at half-mast. Think about that for a minute. It went until Sunday, after pressure, not from the Fox News channel who love the police and hug them up and will do everything for the police about. Not from Fox News, not from AON, not from Newsmax and these new right-wing TV channels that those mad people are now moved over to because they think Fox is now a bit too truthful in calling the election. They don't like the truth. No, these channels are called for half-mast. It was the CNNs. It was the ABCs. It was the good guys who they like to label bad guys who were calling for the half-mast to be flown at the White House. And it went until Sunday, from Thursday to Sunday, that he relented. Last evening he relented. Let people remember this sort of stuff. Now, do you know why those officers were so nice to these people? Let me show you why the officers were very nice to these people. Why they opened the doors to them. There were representatives, House of Representative members, who knew that these rioters were led to particular offices. They had no right. It's a congressman called Claiborne, old guy, been in there, 3rd ranking member. He said, look, the office with my name on it, I very rarely spend time in that office. The one with my name on the door. Where I do most of my work, they came straight there. It's not got my name on it. Do the maths. Somebody on the inside of the White House, on the inside of this was leading these people to Nancy Pelosi's office, to all of the offices of the people they wanted to target. This was meant to be worse than it turned out. Take a look at this video and understand the DNA of what happened in that country.
Shimon, tell our viewers what you're learning.
Yeah, the FDNY, the fire department in New York, is confirming to CNN that they have turned over information to the FBI after the FBI came to them saying they had anonymous tips that indicated that either current FDNY members or retired members were at the Capitol. The FBI receiving this information, then going to the fire department, asking them for information. They are trying to identify those individuals. The FDNY saying that they have anonymous allegations that active or retired members were present at the events at the United States Capitol on January 6th. And so the FBI, working on those tips, went to the fire department, and the fire department turning over that information.
I'm not shocked. I wasn't shocked. I called it here on Friday. Go back to my video on Friday, and I called it right on this platform on Friday because something just did not add up. I've got videos. My next show on Wednesday, I'm going to show you how these guys were actually smoking weed. When black people riot or protest and they get into occupy a building or whatever, the last thing on their minds is flipping smoking weed. You only smoke weed if you know you're if you're entitled. If you're fully entitled, if you feel entitled, that. Listen, it wasn't just firemen and police officers. Take a look at this next video to understand the levels of the coalition that made up this group of nasties. Take a look.
I think it's unfortunate. I think some people's initial reaction was, to characterize the people who are involved in insurrection in a particular way, a particular stereotypical way. And as we're learning more about who participated, we had a West Virginia elected official to the legislature there, who I think has since resigned. We have a CEO of a company. We have, law enforcement officers, fire department officials. And so it just makes me a little bit sad that you have people, among others, who are sworn to uphold the Constitution based on the jobs that they have in their particular states, going and engaging in this kind of anti-American insurrectionist conduct.
That's a good point. And I want to point out something about the New York City Fire Department, because they're saying they're cooperating with the FBI after the agency asked for information about some of their retired and active members, that there are allegations that they were at the riot. We're also learning, the Washington Post reporting, police officers and at least one police chief from departments across the United States are facing termination, suspension, or other discipline for their proximity to or alleged involvement in that attack on Wednesday. So what do you make of the fact that among these insurrectionists, there may actually be people who are essentially public servants?
We've seen reports out of Seattle that potentially Seattle police officers were also involved.
This is my last video now, and this is the most disturbing for me personally, because I read something else into that. You're going to listen to the commentary on this by the host on the news program. But as I'm listening to that commentary, my mind's working different. And I'm going to discuss it after this video. But to me, this is the most disturbing of everything that I saw. And I'm so glad this guy made it. Take a look.
Capitol police officer at the doorway. He moves in on the officer, eventually chasing him up these stairs. And we've learned the man who's leading the mob, his name is Doug Jensen, according to a CNN comparison analysis of his booking photo and posts on social media. CNN has reached out to Jensen's lawyer, but no response as of yet. But watch what happens as this officer gets to the top of the stairs. He looks towards an open door to the left, and then he moves away from it, and he goes toward the camera. We've learned that open door was the entrance to the Senate floor. So this officer led this mob away from the Senate floor.
Guys, when I saw that, I said, how did he end up there on his own? How could the other officers not have heard the commotion? Why was he alone? Do you know the answer I came up with? I think he was sacrificed to that gang. I think they thought, yeah, kill a black cop. Take out one of them. Take out all your racism on the only black person you might get a hold of. Just so happens to be a police officer. It was planned. That guy is lucky to be alive. He's a hero today now, because as you heard from the commentary, he was going that way. He saw that the congressmen and women were vulnerable, so he drew the crowd away from them. He's been praised today over in America, but I believe that he was meant to die. And I believe it was set up by his colleagues. Guys, a lot of good things have happened since. One of them being that Trump has been completely removed from Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. He's lost his 88 million followers. The same people I've been complaining about that have been spreading fake news over to the UK and the rest of the world. There's so many followers of this guy, 88 million to listen to one person, that there is no way the stuff he spews doesn't come over it. They're already talking about this was Antifa. And I'm sure if I went out there and spoke to 15 friends, I'm sure I will come across 3 or 4 that say, oh, maybe it was Antifa. I say, I don't support Trump. Trump's a muppet. He's an idiot. I don't support him. But will say that out their mouths. So one of the best things that's come out of this is that he can't spew rubbish no more. They've taken him completely away. And you know the joke of it? I'm going to show this on Wednesday. When they took that away from him, they still left the POTUS one, the President of the United States one, the one that was set up, that Obama set up. Obama was the first one to have a Twitter account as a president. So they were thought of a name for it, so they called it POTUS account. When they removed him, he went to the POTUS account to try. He never texts from there. He went to the POTUS account to try and hide and use it, and then took that down. And they apologized. We're going to take this down right now. It's all right, Biden. When you come up, we'll put it back up in a few days' time. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Guys, please make sure you share this video to any person in your circles that you think still doubts that racism exists in our lives. On Wednesday, I'm going to be dealing with the social media side of things, and also the Fox News and that lot, who are complicit in everything we've just seen. It's time Western governments start banning TV channels and radio shows that incite people into hate, that divide people. Why would you allow this kind of TV? I mean, you got people like this doctor. I was watching today, they got a doctor called Dr. Mark Siegel, now on Fox, trying to give Biden advice on how to roll out vaccines. This is the guy who did not even admit this thing was real on Fox News. A doctor was for months talking on Fox News saying, no, it's just the flu, following the trend of their leader Trump. It's only when people are now dying in so much numbers that they can't deny it, that this same person who only a few months ago said it's nothing, it's a hoax, go about your life, don't wear no mask, it's not needed, to now be trying to, I'm now a doctor who's giving you advice on vaccines. What? These sorts of issues need to be addressed. Until the Fox stations, until the AONs, until the Nigel Farages, until the Tommy Robinsons and the Trumps are silenced for good, this world will never be healed, and racism will keep finding new races generation after generation because of these people. So guys, time to end the show. I'll see you all on Wednesday for my next installment. In the meantime, stay warm. It's bloody freezing in the UK. Stay safe. The virus is running rampage out there, and stay alert. Please hit the subscribe button. Show your support for what we're doing. Every subscription counts and gets us further and further spreading the good news. Take care and all the best. Bye-bye.